Good evening. There are my contacts. I'm going to come back later and talk about the machinations of the Churchill Fellowship and how we go about applying and obtaining one. I'm just going to talk very briefly about my fellowship, and I think I'll pick up on 2 points Jenny spoke about, which is very relevant to the Churchill, and that is you do really need to know what to do with your napkin. We commented we have two formal dinners. One is on the presentation night of after Government House when the fellowships are awarded, and then at the completion of your contract, when you've completed your studies, you're awarded a medallion. We have a medallion night which occurred last Friday, and we commented, as in us older fellows, on how the journey has brought a bit of knowledge in terms of formal dinners. So it's very important on where you place your napkins. And secondly, the actual study, whilst is important in the Churchill Fellow, the journey itself is an amazing opportunity also in terms of the places you go and the doors that open, particularly when it's attached to the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust. It's also for some of us, and for the majority of us, a lifelong fellowship. As a result, there's a Churchill Association in each state. The Victorian Churchill Fellows Association has an ongoing alumni that allows us to do, for example, workplace visits to some of our fellowships' workplace. That gives us opportunities to go to workplaces that you would never envisage you would in your life, go and meet people and go places. So it's certainly worthwhile in that respect. My involvement came as a police officer in the crime department. We had an issue way back in 2000 of a new contraption that was causing us grief in crime. It was called the multi-function printer. And prior to the multi-function printer, if you wanted to fabricate an identity document, you had to be very good at your craft in terms of being able to copy a driver's licence or a passport. Of course, with the advent of a colour printer and a scanner, anybody could do it. As a result, our banks were inundated with counterfeit documents, accounts were being opened and frauds were being perpetrated on a very small level, but on a large scale. So we would have lots of $5,000 and $10,000 loans and credit cards obtained, and then the people of course would just disappear. So it was causing us a grief because we had an issue about privacy in terms of checking documents, and so we needed it as from a crime perspective is try and work out how do we ensure that the identity documents that people produce were in fact valid. The police department doesn't have much money in that respect, so I was awarded a Churchill Fellowship to study that, and I wanted to go away and see how other countries identified their people and how we could do it easier here without making it harder for us to simply function. And as a result, we came back with a plan to improve our 100-point identity check, and really what is to disrupt the 100-point circle identity that the criminals were doing. We were very successful, but all we did was shift the crime to the point where we had identity takeover, where it became simply just to become someone else and use their identity. So that was another issue we had to work on. But interestingly, that report that I came back that I thought was for the Churchill Fellowship ended up being released in Parliament in Hansard, and as a result I became the identity expert. To this day I still get calls, tragically from a current affair in Today Tonight, to talk about identity related crime. And I did quite a number of television programs and media, and I've just simply because I have a distaste for those shows, I haven't done anything for about 6 years, but someone told me the other night that 2 weeks ago they saw me on a current affair, which was amazing. So obviously refocusing. I went off to a number of Asian countries first, just to see in terms of what we thought would be a primitive system, but in fact they had it quite down pat. I also used the opportunity at the time I was running the DNA unit, so I wanted to see the way that we could incorporate our DNA technology that we were implementing in Victoria into the identity process, and I came back with some quite radical proposals that never got up for understandable reasons, such as DNAing children at birth, which caused some headaches. But in terms of the way we identify our people, it's probably the best way. And people are really scared about the biometrics, although we have really a biometric is your driver's licence photograph that can be digitally reused. So I'll come back and talk about the machinations of how you go about a Churchill Fellowship, but it was a project that I was quite passionate about. I got an opportunity to travel and to study, and I got a great deal more out of that than I could ever envisaged that I still use to this day. So I really commend that you go away, and if you can apply for a fellowship and be successful, it will change your life. Thank you.